People think of Lore of Darkness, they pretty much just think of Soul Stealer, and it makes sense if you've got Malekith or Marathi to just spam Soul Stealer as much as you can to get that sweet self-healing on your expensive legendary lord. But the other spells in the lore can definitely be useful if used correctly. Here, Ice Power is going to show us Chillwind. He's also got Blade Wind, but it probably won't get used, spoiler alert, as much as Chillwind. A nice wind spell, does a little bit of damage, also applies Frostbite. Now, you might be thinking, minus 25% speed against Dwarfs isn't wildly useful. Elves are generally already faster than Dwarfs, but increasing that speed disparity means that your units will basically never get caught, not to mention doing that little bit of damage, even though, yes, Dwarfs do have magic resistance. The extra little chip can count in a multitude of circumstances. Today, Ice Power coming in with Lokir Fellheart. He's also got a Death Hag, just for additional single-entity stopping power, some Corsairs, Sad Swords, Executioners, plenty of Dark Shards with shields as well, a couple of Manticores. Up against, Dwarfs. It's Dwarfs. We've got Rangers here, some Slayers, Longbeards, Ekrins, Miners, plus, I believe, the Norgrimlings Ironbreakers. Yes, Belagar Ironhammer leading the way, whereas Dragonfire Pass up front. No Runecaster and no Engineer, just Belagar, so very brave of Belagar to be so bold. But anyway, you can see that the Argonath Executioners are going to be taking the shots from that Gob Lobber. Regiment of now Grudge Thrower. The leadership effect won't be super impactful in the early game, as it would be against the lower leadership faction, but there is something to be said there. Let's get in and watch for those Blade Winds, though, as Lokir gets a nice charge. He's going to go after immediately the Norgrimlings Ironbreakers. So again, even though they didn't take any model damage, right, still 90 unit models online, a significant amount of HP damage, and considering how cheap that spell is, and how expensive and tanky they are as an infantry unit, it seems pretty cost effective if you could spam that over the course of a battle, even if it's just to take out that one elite infantry. So the Corsairs are going to get in, start to assault this hill position here. Sad Swords, other units also make their presence felt. The Dark Shards going after the Ekrins Miners here, perhaps, or it looks like maybe countering. Oh, there's the Blade Wind. I didn't actually think we would see a Blade Wind here, but actually does a ton of damage initially to those the Rangers that it was cast on, and then another Chillwind as well, putting a little bit of Frostbite on all these units as they countercharge back in. Just that little bit of extra slower. I mean, tell that to the Corsairs who are getting blasted. It doesn't matter too much to them that the Dwarves are all frostbitten. But Manticore's charging in. The disruption is pretty real at this point, but Belagar and some Dwarf Warriors countercharging through the front line. That Sorceress is going to have to scoot a little bit to stay out of the clutches of the bearded bro. Anyway. Yeah, Murderous Prowess kicking off. A lot of the Dark Elven infantry starting to run out of steam, but this left flank here assaulting pretty well. The Feral Manticore gets eaten up by Slayers super fast, though, and the Rangers also providing some nice Overwatch fire as well. Not looking amazing for the Dark Elves initially, but certainly some bright spots here in the center. The Executioners making a concerted push with some Sad Swords. Lokir, Fellheart, and Death Hag also perfectly healthy still, as is the Dark Sorceress. She manages to get tangled up in some Longbeards, which is not ideal necessarily, but she should be alright. These Dark Shards just having to run for the hills, run for their lives. Anyway, Slayers do have pretty good speed. They're, 46 speed, but Chillwind instead just, again, going after those Norgrimlings Ironbreakers, trying to generate value on that high-value infantry. Sorceress herself getting in there against the Longbeards. But, I mean, balance of power-wise, things are still very close. Part of that, of course, is the hero situation. The fact that the heroes of the Dark Elves are still so hale and hearty and healthy. Belagar's the only one remaining. I mean, he's the only one to start, to be honest. But let's look past that. This Manticore also still almost perfectly healthy. Drop it in, terror routing some Dwarf Warriors who overextend. Slayers eventually do catch those Dark Shards, but not before overextending pretty far themselves. Another Chillwind gonna, again, apply Frostbite to them. Does not hit those Dark Shards, so they can move away. 33 speed. The Slayers put down to whatever they are, 30 speed with the Chillwind. So really nice use there. try and keep these Dark Shards shooting and scooting. Ooh, nasty shot, though, from the Lobber, which is still lobbing some gobs. Just about used up all of its ammunition, but definitely still going to be making its presence felt in this late game. Not super accurate. Most catapult-type artillery is not super accurate, especially on a super spaghetti line like how these Dark Shards are spread very thin, but they do eventually finish off those Slayers pretty much. Nice to see there. Likewise over here, the Longbeards, again, overextending, getting caught up in crossbow fire, surrounded by sad swords. Lokier getting in there, doing some fancy twirling, double attack, yeah! I don't know why. Just love. It's like the Skyrim power attack animation with dual wielding. Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. You know, this is a total tangent. Nothing related at all to the battle, but somebody on Reddit was posting that they made a bunch of Warhammer characters in Soul Calibur, which is awesome. I haven't played the new Soul Caliburs, but back in the day I was a big fan of Soul Caliburs. Like 2 through 4-ish. Played them all quite a bit, especially I think like 3 is where the character customization started, and I, back in the day would make like random historical figures, figures from other fantasy genres, some original OC characters as well, so I thought that was pretty cool of a project to recreate some, it actually looked pretty good for the most part. Some of them looked kind of hilarious given the limitations. Anyway, I don't know what made me think of that. I guess seeing Lokier in Soul Calibur would actually be pretty cool. But anyway, back to the battle at hand. Lokier is still fighting with some executioners. He's got those Dark Shards. We've been seeing that continuous spam of the Chillwinds. Not sure how much magic that Dark Sorceress has, but I mean, Chillwind being such a cheap spell means that it is extremely spammable. 5 winds of magic might make it the cheapest wind type spell in the game. I'd have to double check that, but given that those not necessarily a breath type spell like Wind Blast, which I know from the name is a little bit confusing, but Death Hag pulling some MLG dodges from the crossbow fire here of the Quarrelers. More catapult shots landing. Those Dark Shards, their leadership's not feeling great because of that, but balance power actually starting to creep in Dark Elves' favor as Lokier is just a force of nature at this point, blending through remaining Longbeards. War's Dragonfire Pass are just about done. The Rangers are running out of ammunition as well, which is a big factor. Meanwhile, these Dark Shards over here still have plenty of ammunition left, even if they're just advancing up in the fire of the Ekron's Miners. Ooh, that's potentially going to be pretty nasty. We'll keep that in the distance there, while the Manticore and Lokier dive on Belegar. If they're able to snipe Belegar here, that would be absolutely massive. Death Hag also comes in, routes those Rangers on a rear charge. The Sorceress and the Death Hag acting in concert. I mean, Dark Shards do have 24 melee defense with shields, so like only 22 attack on these Dwarf Warriors really isn't going to be super impactful in terms of it actually fighting them in melee. It will take some time for the Dwarf Warriors to actually win, so the shield's coming in handy in more ways than one in this particular battle. But the Dark Shards in the distance there do unfortunately get routed off. Blasting charges and the remaining Rangers. Oh yeah. Definitely deserve it. Make no mistake. I mean, they are Dark Elves. You don't say. Battle loses its savor after getting absolutely exploded. A little bit overkill. Probably should have saved that second volley to try and throw at something else, but that's okay. In these late game situations can be a little bit tough to catch those very minute things. But we may have to fast forward through some Hero Hammer here as the Dark Elves attempt to grind their way through the remaining Rangers. They can stay in support of these Dark Shards. That would be pretty ideal. I mean, not only would it give them some additional meat shields, they could also get a little bit of range fire as well, perhaps. Manticore dropping on those Ekron's Miners. Just trying to avoid sort of the main pocket here, I guess, but probably, yeah, should be dropping rear charges on wherever this little hero pocket forms in order to do just this, get some terror routes. Dark Shards come back, get their revenge on those blasting charges. The Ekron's Miners there taking some volleys. Meanwhile, these other Dark Shards also putting in some clutch volleys here. That extra leadership damage of being attacked by ranged units might help rout off some units, but it's not looking great. For the Dwarfs, I mean. Heroes of the Dark Elves are relentless at this point. Another late game Chillwind just to deal a little bit of extra damage, and again, Get that leadership going, apply that frostbite. I mean, 46 speed on Lokir, even though he is exhausted. Frostbitten dwarfs are also exhausted, and frostbitten, obviously, so they're going to be just that much slower. But let's continue to fast forward a little bit here. We'll get in close, actually, in some real time and watch as Belegar dukes it out with Lokir. And the Sorceress, of course. Sorceress has probably generated massive value and overall done a great job in this battle. And Lokir's got pretty fast attack interval. That's one thing in Warhammer 3. Another thing I was disappointed to see in terms of the UI. I was a big fan of showing the melee attack interval in Troy, even if it was a little bit confusing for some people. Just to see, like, their attack speed more or less represented on the stat card somehow. So, in terms of, again, it's a little bit of a tangent, but in terms of Game 3, like, two of my biggest criticisms, honestly, are to do with the UI. And those are both, the attack rate, sort of attack interval thing, and the vigor penalties not also being reflected on the unit cards. Both of those things were implemented for Troy, and I don't know why they didn't implement them for Warhammer 3. Anyway, that's a discussion for another day. Great job to Ice Power. Super fun game. Manages to pull out a win there. And some really nice use of some underrated Lore of Darkness spells. Chillwind and one Blade Wind. One Tasteful Blade Wind. Managed to net 2,000 damage value on that Sorceress. Quite impressive stuff. The Death Hag also contributing, I guess, some value here. I don't know. I don't think she's too expensive, so might have paid for herself. Lokir also 98 kills, tanks out a bunch of damage as well. Sad Swords, pretty sad. Corsairs, though, do a little bit better. One at least pays for itself. Executioners also pretty sad. The Dark Shards do a little bit better. One of them pays for itself. Manticore, again, same thing. Like, one of them pays for itself. But I guess the Sorceress ended up carrying quite a bit of the value in that game at the end of the day. For the Dwarfs here, Slayers pay for themselves. The Norgrimling's Ironbreaker is definitely a pretty dark spot for the roster, though, given that they just got magicked to death. Longbeard's quite cost-effective, though, as were the Ragers. They pretty much all pay for themselves. Goblobber, likewise, 112 kills, 1,200 damage value. Excellent stuff. Big fan of this. You don't see it all the time for the Dwarfs, but it is arguably their best artillery piece. Besides cannons, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, though. But I personally love the Goblobber. Ekron's Miners also don't quite pay for themselves. Get pretty close. But great job overall to both players. Very fun battle. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.